Alright, there we go. That sees the both of us. Yeah. Alright, is everything good? No, I'm good. I'll sit down. As if from practical reason, one actually any action can be done into infinite parts, any other theories incoherent because any other infinite still occur for reason because the only thing unifying all its actions. Choose alchemy, descriptive things cannot prescribe action. Arsenic is poison, not one on our drink arsenic. No one does it because it doesn't ought to be that way. Only an ought upper premise conform with obstacles and three infinite reasons we can aspect for other parents with aspect for reason. It's easy over reason because they're inescapable and binding and always because they're the only ones that can guide action, which is the purpose of ethics before culpability. Ethics assumes additional ability for self-reflection. Other we can never determine whether someone is responsible for their action. Meaning it's the only way to generate a normative force and that the same reason must be universal. One reason is universal applies to everyone. Doesn't make sense to say Q plus 2 equals 4 is true for me to offer anyone else. Two principles of quality just to offer distinct between ages. Those are all going to be equal between seeking and providing the kind of universality of psychiatry and all the frameworks and the universality of freedom justifies liberty and state which I was not expected to see opposite of none. As we enables the freedom of rules can coexist with freedom of every access and freedom of application of your rules can coexist with freedom of every legal state nature the freedom giving this and other person doing freedom of the sacred techniques and conservations of the right of the sacred state the invasion of liberty does nothing else and thus turns to see the liberty state of non-interference and prefer one duty right as possible to state nature and the streams are not because individuals have different areas of self-interest desire only non-arbitrary shared authority that can resolve disputes of interpretation solves the problem of those individual locus and more duty and obligatory power and two the resource spares the focus on evidence statistics privilege debate with pre-run companies exclude the ones with huge evidence files from debate and my favorite case without any purpose huge evidence files not required and three action guidance on use so maximum arbitrary since the HK for weak interpretation understanding things involves a verified violation of universality also universal violation freedom tells a violation of freedom thus recognize a violation of peers and four course guardian ideals are compatible with rapid gender broad principles can include inspire broad reading change in a lot of previous things groups and political agency values that can make change in non-ideal word homestrom individual influence and morality getting me morally there's no compatibility between these values and radical gender bullshit and literature abstract universal principles and extended them to groups that were extended intended to exclude even if these usually applying themselves to organize have deeply radical potential and 500 moral theories by the anti-colonial to the point where content self-rejected colonialism cite Western social influence they mistake the country region of cosmopolitanism as a desire to colonize claim 14. Consequently, the right regarded as the first views of critical colonialism condemned European context and colonial foundation of those with subsequent criticism of colonialism closely related change needs on race transform mentally analogous of post-colonial creation meaning here and claim meanings Europe spreads model legislation across the world that sketches an idea of progress according which history is moving towards cosmological condition 6 consequences of the American state extending consequences 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 B Dutch circle whose rise of nature of uniform we don't accept conclusion through reason based observation pacifist C aggregation tells something not added you can't correct between 1 migrant and 10 headaches and D predictions are possible to say legally to butterfly consequences ICC tornado including thousands the contention now for one a collective property race or wrong VP level autonomy to travel and invite people as they see fit open borders no data liberty in case open borders exist in the right to migrate as long as they don't infringe on other people or their own masters rather than their governments this argues for the right to immigrate also the right to invite against collective property rights and two immigration restrictions beg the question and violate the fundamental equality of the person fighting related or morally arbitrary distinctions code 11 deaf members have the right to exclude assume the moral ability of members non-members of the claims established their first priority citizens over non-citizens they take the members to the non-members boundary for granted non-citizens acts of resource and rights to be citizens second the members of the right to exclude because they have contributed to the prosperity of the nation first be the equalized economy many people have contributed to wealth and get a sense of case second many citizens who work contribute to the economy while non-citizens do those inside the boundary are able to contribute because they are those on the inside what is at stake is the right to make a contribution and it needs to be shown by the members should have priority this is hard to do within a moral equality which I think is one of the is arbitrary the only way which is the location beauty that's generally let's go priorities people could freely choose rather than to be here rather than there ironically the only thing that could justify the morality of special rights non-nationals in fact is complete freedom of international movement the advantage one is irregular migration supports transnational crime groups border controls or cultural and moral one organized crime migration costs of countries of restrictions on immigration limitations of visa migration opportunities let people to illegal migrate and found services offer bank trafficking organizations through the nation specifically but the criminal rights that are abilities of dogs migrating trafficking connections to drug trafficking or criminal organizations transportation simultaneously for people in narcotics organization like exploitation black labor markets and family pools of border controls and migratory countries where good see traffickers because they're only available to escape and condition services transnational traffickers include fraudulent documents that grow criminal activity ability to migrate depends on position of documents and skip that card for now the next card for now Southeast Asian organized crime puts money in the hands of terrorist groups Southeast organized crime sustains a drug trade suffering from 18 primary annexes of Southeast Asian groups such as JIMG ASG criminals with the need to trial later returns behavior links between violent extremist groups and criminal include one trying to world circular opium recent region ASG the terrorist organization also between violence and profit driven organized crime terrorism crime related from lawlessness insecurity to at least efficient cycle allows the transmission of criminal activity terrorist activity and drug cross funnel to insurgents in Northeast India saying 22 crime dominating Northeast region drug trafficking the minor frontier marijuana public road colony underground trafficking drug violence drug trade along with private goods and the global triangle international drug trade in connection between insurgency and the drug trafficking impact in Northeast the insurgent groups of Southeast Asian black market supply weaponry cocaine trade and the major source of revenue because of trouble to control drug trafficking is regulated which has order groups and difficult to negotiate with order control and Al-Qaeda transports with related insurgents secret straight critically vulnerable nuclear facilities, sector one box, escalates nuclear war, all 20, all kinds of protect strategies, enthusiastic terrorists, groups who want to acquire nuclear weapons, terrorism, communication, government, centers identified, government, all kinds of joint hands with insurgent network groups operating in northern India, attacks on nuclear facilities can be planned as terrorists use to spread nuclear radiation, responsible for 2001-2008 attacks in Kabul on Pakistan, India may launch nuclear attack, nuclear dropping causes for mass retaliation response to CBW scenario for America, operator, the situation, regulation, nuclear weapons, you can see who has decision to pull the nuclear triggers as soon as it's possessed by terrorists in the plan text. The just regards of doors, the countries with the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN plans, all labor migration, for those boosting economic integration, coordinating 16 of Southeast Asian countries want to make their economic market more effectively functions, penetration, they should accelerate 3 million meals, also check rules to let people move freely across borders without passport checks, rules on identity, location, check across borders, check exchange, period, little people, different properties, and reason, utilizing human resources, multiple nationalities, and destination countries, rule and visa integration, labor, stand in the way, all connecting people, leads the key to success, the other be one after one introduces the negative near for the visa, drop the rate, convening, no market, convenience, after university, one neutral, theory, substance, it's being carried by someone who's greater than 170, drop the argument, stems, which bad things, next minority, others, see, can be given to repent up on reason, excludes only with dated wrong, and G, no argument, these negative tangential theory there, and true subject really substantially from A seems so true for false mental communities, vision, you believe me, B, we can't start trying to use that accepting primary principle, C, it's better using derogatories and fill them in an obligation, and D, affirming it's harder because of the fact that the negative is a 6 minute to an hour, and the 4 minute one is 19 minutes of work with extend 6 minutes of AC off the 7 minute one, C, and 6 minutes to and 3 after you see how we, because it's already hard for us to shine 19, from 19 to 19 to 9 episodes, people listen to just matters, spans, obviously, always improving count for all the effects of trust improvements over analytics, and the role about to determine the truth or falsity of the resolution, prefer the affirmative must prove true, the negative must prove false, prefer for isomorphism, role about that on phrases binaries, maximize leeway as to who's winning for interpretation as to who's winning offense, only the truth I think solved because the answers either true or false, there's no in between questions, and I'll go back and read the card. It's reverse call, strict border controls, force migrants in the hands of third party syndicates, constitution major revenue flow, Miller above answer 13, proposals driver migration, will never succeed, and attempts to control migration, restricted migration, reason generated, demand for plans and migration service linked to the binding growth, certain migration is facilitated by third parties. Other parties. Do you need a marked doc or?
No, I still think so. Who's a reasoner?
Oh, wait, hold up.
Right? Who's a reasoner?
Yeah, we say people who set and pursue ends.
How do we determine whether someone is setting and pursuing ends?
Right. We would say that if they're like self-legislating, i.e., they're able to determine like seek value in their action.
How do we determine whether someone's seeking value in their action?
Yeah, it's just by like reconstructing like back in action, you can tell its intrinsic nature, their intent, things like that.
Okay, so like I toss a stick and like a dog, my dog like runs after it and picks it up. As the dog's action like intrinsic, they have like their
We think like Korsgaard believes animals are reasoners.
Okay, great. Plants stretch towards the sun. That's intrinsic value because they need that to survive. Are plants reasoners?
We don't have evidence that plants are reasoners because like plants are not able to take like active action.
Wait, why are they able to take active action? They grow towards the sun.
That's
I went to plants away in the still, and they've like warped around
that's proven to be
the
like
sun.
that's proven to be like an evolutionary thing, i.e. like that's just like the way like they grow because of the fact that like they like move towards like a food source. That's not
okay, why is that any different than like a dog running towards a than like a dog running towards a bowl of food?
Well, that's
or
like a
whatever.
survivability thing, right?
Why
Dogs
is it
can
different
do
from like
things that they
companion
don't
animal?
need to do to survive, right? Like my dog, like I don't know, like he like picks up a toy all the time. He sees like it's cute.
Okay, so then how do we determine whether? Okay, so it's only if something is like evolutionarily necessary that they count as that if something is not evolutionarily necessary, then they count as an agent.
Yeah.
Okay, how do we determine like so it's only basic survival?
What?
So like only anything beyond basic survival, thus makes him an agent.
We would say so, yeah.
Okay, great.
Like if they're placing value onto action, yeah, by like doing.
But like I'm trying to determine how we're able to how we can figure out whether someone is placing value onto action.
Yeah, if it's like not in the name, like if it's in the name of purely survival, that's like sure that's not placing value onto action. That's just like a instinctual thing they do for survival.
Okay, let's say somebody hands me a bowl of chocolate. I don't need that chocolate to survive, but I still want to eat it anyways. How are we able to determine whether my eating of like X versus Y is sufficient for survival because some food is necessary?
But you're an agent if you eat the chocolate. Yeah, that's an agency.
Right, but how do we make the distinction between which forms of eating are necessary for survival versus which forms are not?
I mean, we would just say like the practice of eating is probably something that's there for survival. Like I don't know. This question is.
Okay, that's fine.
Just the practice of eating. Like if you're hungry.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Does extinction matter under Kant?
We would say if you could prove that something intrinsically causes extinction, then that would matter.
How do we determine whether something intrinsically causes extinction?
The intent behind taking an action is to cause extinction, then that we would say is bad. But
okay, so if
it's just like a consequence that would happen from an action, like it could happen from an action.
Okay, great. Is advantage to intrinsic or potential consequence?
It doesn't matter under the contract.
Great, thank you. The consequences fail. Induction fails if, like, Settler points a gun at a native and pulls the trigger. They shouldn't be held responsible for the action because they don't know if it's actually going to kill them.
No, I mean I think it's a case of negligence that still matters under Kantianism, i.e. like they shot with the intent of like putting them at harm, and they knew the possible they like
shot with like that.
Okay, so there's no intent foresight distinction?
No, there is.
Okay. Order is one-off case.
Case just in order.
Yeah. No, case will be the underview and then the framework. Oh, it's already been signed. Just let me know when you get it.
Oh, I just got it.
Okay, fantastic.
Okay.
Anyone not ready? First, on settler colonialism critique settlers was an everyday process shaped by affective investments in institutions that claim jurisdiction over native land, Rift PG-13. Similar to that affective rituality command viewed with every century structures that enable act the injured territories hard to be generic conditions present and practical consciousness limits to economic, political, cultural systems, and civil expanding comments and ask outside floor, materials and continuing on names that take the natural right to indigenous place like the hard knock on any motives governance settler colonialism cannot look outside specific period logical elimination rights, settler governance, sociality, force and rise of the no extent to elimination organic credibility, repress continued destruction of settler society, and settler colonialism was deeply ingrained in Western culture and reflects the universal logic of non-naturalist ethics. The philosophy is appropriate to justify extermination of indigenous people to get the best cultural starting point. Take us in 12. The life is part of placing colonialism setting and enters misrecognizing towards a cultural and acts until disruption is basing cultural pride and giving to the world to imperialist attitude looks by culture course sometimes one and universal philosophy less and superior principles that argue beyond the culture and to gear all Middle East and vacation every name and demonstrating confessed relations to culture how to date like colonial reason alignment philosopher having responsibility law humanity humans are equal just like procedure like the lands of indigenous people countermine and same logical water than universal OET by getting other like not European ways much empowers and culture into one but an ideal period of form of abstraction away from material violence to the colonialism their view from nowhere is not only actively pop settlers of Nichols 13. So that was unsettled really got to be the imperialism ideal period has recovered and inheritances that argue that God and principle of just society can be generated by abstracting away the absolute neutral and ideal constantly arguments of society where always sexual patriarchal narratives legitimizes subordination ideal civil systems while the extermination of people's service activation use to register argumentation to an abstracting counterfactual level the burden of proof from colonial taste and appeal to the ideal and highly problematic appeal to an ideal human here take device of discussion cause sovereignty can serve the function of justifying ongoing occupation once abstracting to a non-evaluative function in specific society like colonial domination the control construction physical spaces as an actively period logical when the debate has been skewed in the direction by the point of departure itself and the alternative call for place-based education to Christ relating theorizing to present realities of injustice acknowledging the ways that the colonialism creates as injustices to foster radical movement against domination. 0-8-14. Place that educates the unconventional place in Western knowledge and understanding the word is place of version of the ontological epistemology and all placeable place through Western knowledge normalized domination through colonialism epistemic towards care one's relation to the world normative theory should start where we are and injustice is not understood especially in perfect justice epistemology is most cultivating the structural kind of domination eliciting epistemic mechanisms like hard critical interrogation place education just interrogates what's or finds self-exchange of personalities locating engage with complex and epistemic relations with human modes of domination the natural world of policy self illustration of the place of normative how it's passed on impacting the potential place of education and representation of epistemology perpetuates other practices of the way we understand and discuss the structures around us over determine our practice. 0-14. So the place on epistemic genealogy, ethics, logic, ideology, from that how the world is interpreted to allow for domination, the ongoing historical process, illustration, place return to through teaching normal and practice, academic teaching, introduce and perpetuate hierarchies, or discourse, manifest cultural subject, and individual as the inspiration to epistemic transgress. Right, so those things, this break can inspire epistemic friction is uncomfortable system to begin to crack out critical consciousness. Case. Underview. They get 1 year theory, but it's not up to the debater. Incentivizes reading 10 frivolous shells. They can win on any one of them and a 1 hour time event or 1 year theory because they get 2 speeches in 7 minutes, which answers the warrants for competing interpretation. The abuse of self-imposed is always better about the shell. And the 1 hour is proportional. Reading theory cancels out the abuse, so there's no reason a short speech means drop the video. You should get more efficient or don't read theory. There's a bunch of blips in the 1 year that were, if they were possible to flow, particularly presumption should negate. There's always an opportunity cost of deviating from the status quo in terms of time and reasons theirs, or just raw nonsense of fairness argument. There's an analysis from topic 3 years ago, which is not applicable a few years later. The role of the valve, we should not have to prove it. First of all, we don't have to prove the Congress of the resolution. There's no resolutional basis. We always have to prove the opposite. No isomorphism argument. There's interventions to topics and never we have to determine the desirability through whether the plan is good, whether the framework is a good idea or not. When the critique are not desirable, independently true testing is bad and creates a sense of just recycled names and other generic frameworks. The framework debate. I'll make, actually, I'm going to read that. 1 and C1, the unity of action is wrong. We can 1 stop dividing at a reasonable point which solves infinite regress. Second, turn intent focus can explain some stupidity. For example, if I make a promise to know the grass, intent-based theories can't explain why an ethical obligates insanity on the mower. 1 and C2, we can derive ethics from lived experience, i.e. from taking the positionality of those who have violence committed against them. 1 and C3, we can align with intuitions. For example, we know that genocide is bad. We don't need the 30-page philosophy paper to prove this. We can just stop asking why. 1 and C4, self-reflection is a key. 8, indigenous conception of agency. People define their agency outside of that. For example, the minority define themselves as both made of substance and nonsense at the same time. It is a contradiction because that can adhere to their cosmology. Being put as a fleshy object that crosses was laughable. There's no coherent basis in order to determine whether somebody's agent is an agent or not, even if you don't think it's evolutionary that requires some amount of subjectivity, which individuals never be defined as agents. The group theory reason arguments, Kant logic runs counter to ontologies, Western binary deductions, a root cause of all exclusion, Norton Smith 10. These are about the back of Torres, referred to iceberg, acceptable attributes, deductibility, and deductibility, and criteria, constitute determined deduction, the system of two values, semantics, about exception, logic, simple, non-contradictory, complex, the question against non-standard logic, two values, semantics, binary logic, and digital logic, the opposite, not that for every proposition, we either P is true or not P is true, the main case of something not P and P at the same time, something that be good and evil, that good is an evil, name, prediction, more cautious, right, inductive, inference, things like that, and the divergent can be kind of start to actual word, inference, to real different predicates, the west, so propositional thinking, it's capable of giving knowledge, and you response, I bet Socrates, he was like, when he is more both cases and subsequent proposition, you cannot truly verify statement, and he also assumes that a more requires empirical verification, reason statements, and he is willing to make, and then so results of kinds of faith and chain of reasoning, and the same way we stand by myself without the Christian law, for how to for the American Indian possibilities of moral bliss on the encounter native conduct conclusion real ontological bliss and ontological assumption the world's material is rational universe of the world is created beings participate in creation of unfinished world whose order with the world's creativity living worlds not fixed emergent normal like can regulate lists different predictions and determinate futures ontological dimensions are all relative methodological so for obtaining knowledge of relations between things on player relations world order principle the duty of rights of us you cannot differentiate between differing awkward exceptions of the world without defaulting into empirical world I use 2 plus 2 is 4 and I say 2 plus 2 equals 5 we have to default to the type of empirical world when you have a bunch of blocks to determine what the difference is the resources barriers argument quit whining and cut more prep abstract philosophy is hard to learn and privileges people who have more coaching action guidance is not arbitrary people who are rational will not follow enemies i.e. racism is inherently irrational we shouldn't have to convince racists the radical agenda the problem is who they are extended to they will types of rights and universality will never be extended to indigenous people think about the Dawes Townsend Act when indigenous people got land rights and 10 years later they got taken back again because they are structurally antagonistic the anti-colonialism argument Kant's individual opinions do not impact how their theory applies the notion of progress as colonialism defines indigenous societies what males progress from because they're closer to nature and kinds of anti-civilizational commitments and consequences fail is morally repugnant you should not deny the badness of things like genocide or the truth of something colonialism independently reasonable predictions are able to solve the A and C points and C points and people do not rely on induction those and Norton Smith 10 evidence explains why we have an open possibility for an entire world distinction between saying Socrates is moral because I've seen him versus saying Socrates is like all men because I've indirectly interacted with him induction doesn't fail the reason things like scientific studies work is most likely because we can make predictions you should use Occam's razor absent alternative explanation for why you should default to induction probably being true okay we could cut the next card I'll read a different link instead and content epistemology is inevitably flawed. We do not always need to ask why, but lived experience before the basement did just phenomenology, work and forth. The question asks more important than the truth. We discover how we act impacts the world. The Williams question, principally person meaning, making the world meaning, shape, and principle. Name Aldrich is about to talk about the same moral universe when no exists in Roman no. Different true and right, or not always better. What is knowledge and making falsity in relation to questions? Trying to confuse the limits of questions. Not limited. We have as much reason moral metaphysics, epistemology, which justify to the analysis of knowledge, rationalism, skepticism, other forms of religion, monolithic focus on propositional knowledge. In order to fully facts, they cannot knowledge must be justified. If it's justified by why, one must also be justified by God. Infinitely, there must be not justified by other SMR justification for why American Indian approach to epistemology, earth in the back of eternal Western, holds a turtle, one elder story teller, responded turtles all the way down to the way of thinking, such questions like answer she had another question experience with sermon on all the question to be answered just by the initial thing American Indian thinkers finding counterintuitive knowledge is an experience, propositional knowledge is a turtle embodied, non-proved by answer propositional form, not keep being justified indeed. There's a justification question philosophy, truth that is in the self-knowledge, not thing we can grow with, but to use evident words from human experience, really what we actually need to know. The question is real and things that arise in relation to something, just like something known to do philosophy is problematic, was only guessing what philosophy depends on subject knowledge and experience, conveyed in story, American Indian philosophy through the right way for humans to walk, what is right, is human to tell us about the best way to live knowledge practical, like our second knowledge, be a phenomenological method, question subject single objective reality life, world, the ground of knowledge, European philosophy, not knowledge, God philosophy, American Indian philosophy, must maintain archaic identity of philosophy, no contradiction, almost only impossible to fit into picture, live in this picture, right, for those who need to stop doing philosophy, always be able to experience every contradiction, because there's nothing that contradicts. Okay, let me send the card, but I'm good for us. Yeah, for sure. Okay, I'm putting this on the framework, or the case stuff. It's I need the extension link.
Yeah. Cool. You good?
Yep.
Oh, one sec. This talk is too
You're fine. It's very hard.
Okay, cool. Status of the alternative?
Unconditional.
Yeah, what does a world of the alternative look like?
The intent of the world is alternative means that we have a different starting point for ethical theories where we begin with place and our relations to people around us in the land. The end point of this will be complete decolonization, probably manifested in material movements like flash mobs at Standing Rock. Flash mobs of I don't know more, movements at Standing Rock, blockades in Canada are all manifestations.
What's the card's name? I don't see it.
It's on the case page. It says Norton Smith 10, content epistemology is inevitably flawed. You don't always need to ask why, but lived experiences before the basis, but it just problems. Go down to the very bottom. Oh, did it not say? Okay, sorry, I'll pause across. Let me resend this one. Sorry about that.
Maybe let me check.
This is the Norton Smith that's in the doc.
Yeah.
There's one more this Smith, but there's like she read a
Yeah, sorry, I read a second one for card 04. The doc should be sent. I might have hit send before it like saved. Just let me know when you're good.
Yeah. I guess. Yeah. What's the worldly alternative look like?
Yeah, so like I said, it is both a different starting point for our ethics and
I
then.
still don't see it.
Okay.
Can you send me the body of the email?
Yeah, absolutely. I will.
Sorry.
Okay, I resent the doc as well, so you can try opening another doc that comes through, and I'll just resend this one through. Sorry, I don't know why this one card is just like not.
That's an awesome.
Wait, no, I think that had 20 because it was 24 pages.
Oh yeah, it was a little.
Wait, stop. Yeah, it's here.
Is this it?
Card number 4. Yep.
Yeah, it's the longest.
Yeah, I know, right? It was so good, I couldn't resist. I love that white card.
Okay, cool. Resume. What does the alternative look like?
So we'd say the alternative looks like a different way of centering our epistemology and a different method of like generating ethics that starts from the physical world, that starts from our lived experiences and relationships to other people on the land. Materially, the endpoint of this goal is the idea it's like critical indigenous philosophy, which has its end goal as decolonization. We think that you cannot separate our personal experiences from the political. This would manifest in material actions like murder of missing indigenous women movement. It would manifest in like flashbacks of I don't know more, like lock-on techniques at Standing Rock, etc.
What does the Hinkinson evidence say?
So the Hinkinson evidence talks about why. The Hinkinson evidence talks about why the settler colonial culture is like used in order to exclude indigenous conceptions of agency. That indigenous people will always either be need to be brought into the assimilatory practices of enlightenment thought, where they are irrational and need to learn how to use reason, or they are forced outside of it, which means they will never be recognized as agents, and any kind of violence committed upon them is okay because they are not agents.
Where's my framework made a claim that you have to reason a certain way?
Let's see. The one I see one. Reason is universal and applies to everyone. Does it make sense to say 2 + 2 = 4 for me but not for anyone else? Proves that your reason is universal. Second principle of equality. There's
reason is universal, as in everyone has reason. Where do we say you have
we
to
are
reason a certain
critiquing the way that conception of reason is mapped onto indigenous peoples because it presumes that indigenous peoples need to use that reason in order to be agents. Right? This is the explanation process.
And not like a misapplication of my framework.
Well, we'd say that one, the structural tenets of your theory prove that your framework is wrong. I.e., if you have identified why your framework can never lead to violence, that framework is bad. Second of all, is that you have to ask yourself why. If these misapplications are happening over and over and over, it doesn't make sense to say, alright, ethical theory is probably fine. It doesn't matter that everyone has misapplied it and it's caused massive abuses of colonialism for the past 100 years, right? We need to talk about what we should hold it accountable for material violence.
Do you make an ontology claim?
No, structuralism things.
Okay, cool. It's fine. The presumption of permissibility negates. Actually, that's fine. I guess this K rolled about stuff. So was there any response to the advantage?
No.
Okay.
But you said it doesn't matter in the con. And it definitely does not matter in the K roll about it.
Okay. 5, right? Yeah, 5.
5.
No independent voter.
Yeah.
123 remaining. Case K. Case will be extending the framework, extending the offense, and then just extending stuff, and then I'll just like do them.
No under review.
No.
Okay. So case then K. Right.
Hopefully this has no review in it. Cool, yeah. Case K. Cases, yeah.
There's no doc. Case extensions, line by line, critique.
Yeah. Let me know.
Extend the framework HC is capable since a mere system of HC is an active agency. This justifies a system of side constraints because H must be willed and necessary means there, and thus H must be a system with equal and outer freedom to universal principles. Thus the standards consistent with libertarian state of non-interference. That was the bindingness argument. It'll matter a lot more later. The extend the open borders evidence that right to migration is guaranteed for the principle of autonomy. So immigration restrictions infringe on freedom. That ways we have a perfect duty to uphold the principle of autonomy. The line by line of the case answers in the first place. Top levels and almost all their answers are just reasons why sort of consequences work in the first place. We won't dispute that. We'll say that consequences do work, which means that none of this takes out my framework though, because the normativity of Kantianism is still good. We can still just win that our methodology is good of Kantianism and that it's able to incorporate people in the first place. I'll just do the line by line. I'll just do the line by line. The 3 point on intent or the 2 point on intent for unity of action. One, the intent unifies all those actions in the first place, which is why it's able to explain for substitutions. And the first place, the 2 points wrong. If people have infinite varying experience, which proves why your theory fails. Because, for example, different people like experience things in different ways. Which is no way for you to agree one term of ethics in the first place. They say that their response of bindingness was just terrible. They say we don't need a 30 field page. This just proves you have no normative force and proves that it's inherent to your theory. The bindingness argument has a couple implications because the fact that there's no way for you to normally justify why your theory in the first place. There's a couple implications of the bindingness argument. One is justifies permutation to the alt to the after because with 2 net benefits. One, normativity because of the fact that we're able to normally explain why things except colonialism are wrong because of the fact that we're bound to an ethical theory. Second is egoism. Anything else allows people to opt out of ethics in the first place and be able to commit infinite violence, which turns the entirety of the critique. Also, it takes out the entirety of the links because it proves my framework is literally unstable. So questioning reason uses it in the first place. Therefore, point they say self-reflection does not keep it. This is just wrong. We still include them in our conception of HC because native people are still reasoners in the first place because we are still inclusionary of them under our theory. It's just they might have different theorizations. We don't exclude those theorizations in the first place. The B point is just wrong. Anyone can be self-legislating. There's no impact. At best, we're just supererogatory and nice to people who might not be agents. There's no impact. The Norton-Smith link will, the Norton-Smith link, we're not forcing Kant onto natives, but rather forcing the state tax a certain way, which means this definitely doesn't link. Second is that it's not about our even if these ideologies are like not shared by indigenous people, the fact is that we still guarantee them rights and still believe that they're equal agents in the first place, which means there's no sort of exclusion of their ideology for ours. They can still have their own ideology and have their own system of beliefs. That's what freedom is in the first place. The Burkhardt evidence, Kant believes experience matters because there's things synthetic operators, i.e. the Pythagorean theorem is derived by my experience in the world, me using other mathematical formulas and deriving it, which means that we still care about experience. Second is that when we make maxims, you have to be universally applicable, so we have to consider various subject positions, which means that we sort of take this out. The line by line proper, I'm going to go for the Homester evidence. Uniquely proves that Kantianism historically has been able to use universal principles to be able to mobilize radical movements, which justifies permutation. That's the Homester evidence. The low overture, and just on the overture was able to liberate Haiti using these ideals in the first place, because empirically it's proven it also proves reflection. It proves reflection is good. Their only answer is just that native people will never have rights to see is all fallacy. Just because they don't, the status quo doesn't mean that they shouldn't. Also, Kant can guarantee in the first place. That's the entirety of the argument. Also, I'm going to extend the Klein-Gilder card. This card is gas. One, it proves that Kantianism and our theory uniquely reject colonialism because the fact that we believe in property rights should be guaranteed to native people. Second, it also proves that rational reflection works. Kant was a dumbass, a racist, and he was convinced by his own theory. By rationally reflecting, he realized that native people do deserve rights and the Europeans were bad under colonies, which takes out all their arguments and all their responses to it in the first place. The critique proper. Top of you conceded the state could concede that's a libertarian argument that's Addison and 9 evidence which uniquely proves that libertarianism is the only way to guarantee the sort of rights to people in the first place. Anything else infinitely causes violence against people because creates native which is infinitely more violence against native people in the first place. Second, we get to weigh the post-fiat consequences of the affirmative under your frame because you care about things like induction. You warranted why consequences matter, which means they should matter under your critique, which means that definitely comes first. For one, for fairness, anything else, 6 minutes the afternoon, or 1 area, I was on some quantified linear versatility. We can measure time also, we can't get back. Second is education. The consequences are epistemologically tied to the plan, which means that they definitely matter. Extinction outweighs 1 for reversibility. Once everyone's dead, we can't come back. Second is that we're morally uncertain about what interpretation take the world we should work towards preserving. And third is that there's resource disparities. People don't get access to basic necessities whenever there's an extinction scenario. The inconsistent evidence is that this is just a misapplication of my framework. Past events are incoherent. It's not like everyone during colonization days was a Kantian or knew about Kant in the first place. The link just says that Kant existed and people still did bad things. Or this is about Locke and how Phil authors. We don't defend them as people. Ideal theory is uniquely good. That takes out the Nichols evidence. 1 for advocacy skills. The forcing you to robustly justify your theory from the bottom up is uniquely good for being able to justify your theory and understand in the first place. Second, we can't have an ideal if we really have a ruler constantly changing lectures that perform a contradiction. The alternative is an ideal of what the world should be. The alternative fails when the surmise essentially can't solve it. It's non-material, so it can't solve the material balance. The second is there's no consensus on how to evaluate examine reasons differently. Justice permutation to both. And second is perm to the after the minds the alt resolves of links. It still makes material changes. Perm to the F is an instant the alt. We reject certain property conceptions. That's open board. So evidence. Also, it's easier decolonization minimalistic states, which means that libertarianism is uniquely good under your framing.
order is going to be the case. Is anybody not ready? Great. The settler plotted to clear landed properties in opposition to native populations whose structure related to land prevent the settler from establishing sovereignty. The logic of elimination is the only way to maintain settler jurisdiction over stolen land. This quotidian American mission to eliminate the native and indigenous genocide structure rather than event. They say the state is good, the state is terrible. A plan and good state plan is built off of the back of indigenous sovereignty. It should not be the United States federal government's land we're sitting on, should be indigenous land. B plan and state is bad. It will always be 2 steps forward, 1 step forward, 2 steps backwards. Like Gerber v. Oklahoma's example of the past where changing public institutions to go around a tattoo color, but that's okay. Indigenous sacrificial lives prove why indigenous genocide structures the plan, the framework to make counter-interpretation, the one it sees an object of research, the way with the role of the negative to determine the ethicality of its underlying epistemology, prefer 1 ethical subject formation, understanding the way we justify ethical paradigms and relate to the world key to developing ethical values in students, which outweighs the only other impact debate. Second is sequencing the frameworks and temporary referendum, the ethicality of certain actions informed by the epistemological approach to the world. What does it mean to vote for the plan if there's no framework and the round the plan is good under? Well, one that's not the conclusion informs our conclusions we draw, including normative truths, and the resolving representation of the world is a prior question, which means that critiques of the way they derive their normative framework come at a higher layer than offense under the framework. So it's not a question of the desirable to the app, but whether the app is complicit in a genocidal something product. Because that winning a link proves the app is an unethical product which you should reject on face. Fairness is a point on a ceiling, perfect for its unachievable and a level playing field is only good as far as fairness rate classification sufficiently fair after one contextualization of the views of the two are why the moving evidence is wrong. It shows the admirable plan they should be prepared to defend it. The education argument classroom turnkey begs the question what we classroom over risk of fairness and offense that we don't make classroom possible risk of negative offense outweighs extinction outweighs this definitely doesn't matter. The alternative saying that they can derive ethics in place does not mean that consequences matter independently. They didn't extend the advantage in the 1 yard. So you can't put the warrants back from the line of the 1 yard. They don't get to weigh extinction. The Higgins and Evans we're not going to go for, but we will go for the regress link, which is right on case. Knowledge cannot be divorced from experience, but is cultivated through relations to people, the land, and the world. To stop observing is to stop philosophy. There is nothing contradictory because that presupposes truth, which describes the world to contradict. But we can always discover new experience. The world is co-constituted by our interactions, but then we create new experiences. There are 2 impacts. First is that Kant refuses to identify the world as a base of knowledge, directly turns off religious philosophy. Second, controls the root cause of environmental catastrophe. The Seneca's 3 sisters were discovered by rational science of soil, repellent to creating chemical fertilizer, detrimental effects, focusing on relational experience, inverse or favorite reference to the earth, and we before I. That's Burkhardt 04. The ideal theory, good stuff, group it, it's bad. 1 is a link explanation, proper answer. Second, their intuitions are good, and debates of moral reason. We calibrate ethics to align with our intuitions. If ethics specifies something like genocide, no philosophers like already guess genocide is fine. No, they go back to the drawing board. Second, third is that justify their speech act. Even ideal theory, the app, which is good, the app form with the ism, which was a link for conversational people. We don't need the line one, the app skills, the presumptions are presume the alternative isn't rebellious justify the ruler. It's not cheating. We don't reject all norm ethics as yours. The alt is not a perfon. You can say that something is good without using ideal theory, which relies on universalist frameworks. The alt is not the alt will send it here. The alternative direct ethics in place subjectivity is tied to land and the world around us. So using our positionality as a starting point for normative claims necessary to prescribe action. This approach of viewing the world as ethics concretizes violence and uses of colonialism is the starting point for any liberatory approach to resolve injustice. The end point is a complete unconditional colonization or repatriation of indigenous land. Yes, we saw material violence as an example given in cross-sex. Things like Standing Rock, Castle Island, and war blockades in Canada. There was no explanation for this. There were permutations used to group them. There's no explanation. They were possibly fast and flow. You didn't have a warrant in the 1 area, you don't get them. But one is that links are disadded to the alternative absent. Think about how it resolves it. Second, framework means the plan is irrelevant. It is the problem. It comes at a higher layer, which is the framework analysis done. Third, is that about how it functions. The permutation to it, and like instantly all the proper rights up. Proper rights might be good, but representation overdetermined. I.e., if you think that the war on terror was bad because it didn't lead to U.S. strategic objectives and caused mass civilian deaths, versus you think the war on terror is bad because to the rise of religious power that implicates the way your policy acts and come forward. To mean that even if proper rights are all bad, if they use the representation of Kant to justify them, will always mean their policy fails. Case. We'll go for the logic link. The way that you should view the link is both a link to the critique and a reason Kant is wrong, so that when either layer is a necessary but insufficient burden for the two, or if you link to the critique, then Kant is racist, you should vote neg. If Kant is wrong, so often the round, you should vote neg on presumption. The affirmative form of Western binary logic is wrong for proposition P. P is true or not P is true, but indigenous epistemology show that both can be true. A person can be good or not good at the same time. There are 3 impacts. One is no contradiction. That supercharges the no contradictions break that was above, which means that conception was wrong, so we cannot have a contradiction in conception. Second is that the root cause of violence, binaries, forces to exclusion, e.g. define defining man, woman as a binary, ignore gender fluidity, defining reason and logic, requires them to be irrational or illogical, which will always find geneity as the irrational other, reproducing settler violence. People, they admit the disappearing native or the drunken Indian, so the genocide must occur for white civilization to live. 3 is a leap of faith. This is where you vote neg. All philosophical theories are culture determined. Even the basic kind of logic that P is itself is unprovable because even Western deduction requires a leap of faith at some point along the link to make claims about proposition P because it feels intuitive that P has to be itself, which means that A, their claims of a priori truth are just as relativistic as ours, and B, even if they're winning that logic and rationality is good, they are not justified by their conception of logic and rationality is good. So you take a leap of faith for an Indian philosophy. This is Norton Smith. You should read after that. It's utterly fantastic. The limelight, first of all, we don't have to read all the Norton Smith stuff that was done on the case and the infinite varying experiences. They can base them from our relationship to land and the people and our reciprocal arguments. The normative force argument, this permutation fails. A, put logically the impact terms of reason, good justification, and proves that not all these people derive the agency from reason, which is the Maori example. B, proves that they cannot explain violence, which takes out the egoism argument. 1 is what indigenous people not live in the abstract ideal world that Kant envisions. We need to take unconscious actions to get to that world, like when Black Hammer stole a van transporting vaccines and distributed it to doctors who needed them during the peak COVID. Kant would say that's bad because it's stealing, even though it's overdetermined by our structures. Second of all, structures Kant take into account the relationships that constitute systems of white supremacy. Even if the theory is correct, i.e. something like a yoga shop coming into a low-income neighborhood, that's fine. It's an interaction between 2 agents, but it is not when it becomes one of the smoothie shops or Lululemon joins it and it becomes a system of gentrification. Kant cannot object to that way. It cannot explain indigenous violence. The finding this evidence is wrong. We don't reject all normative ethics such as yours. Second of all, the rigorous stuff. We don't. Who cares? We can just stop asking and answering questions like the question itself, which is the part concept. We can just stop. We cannot just say we don't talk about things or it's bad. Talk about things like the world resting on the back of the turtle. The limelight. First of all, I don't have to talk about the state. The problem is your theory itself. Even states guaranteeing them rights and problems that indigenous people are defined outside of the theory, which is proven over the lower mature evidence. The problem is structuralism. And structuralism to get warranting about, but they will always be applied wrong. Kant's property rights are independently bad. It's not a question of who has ownership over property that runs counter to his conceptions about how the land should inform our relationships and reciprocal relations to the world and people.
Okay, cool. 122. Sorry. The links you extended were Burkhardt, Norton Smith, anything else?
Nope. The line line on case was answered on case, not in the critique.
Okay. Actually, can I use your stuff?
Yeah, go for it.
I like giving final speeches standing up. It makes me feel powerful.
Relatable.
Case kit. Only some post-its. Let me know when everyone is good. Oh, sorry. Okay.
Excellent framework, AC's scalable system, your assessment, AC's activity, this justified system of cycles, A supposed will necessarily means there, and thus A supposed system equal not free through universal principles. Thus, the series can see with category compared best activity, omnilateral will. Thus, the bias argument, there's multiple implications. They just functionally dropped their only arguments were just responding to bias writ large. None of that matters. These are new in the tuner. You had one response to bias inside of the one and see, and that was just that we don't need a 30 page fill paper to say why something is wrong. We'll get to why that's wrong later. There's two implications. One, justifies permutation to the alt of the app framework. Every agent intrinsically values practical reason when they go about setting and pursuing an end, which means the alt necessitates my framework. Things like place-based education are all based on sort of a mindset shift, which means that what does that require?
reason in order to be able to formulate those concepts in the first 16 prerequisites. Second is that they've conceded all the net benefits and explanatory power. My framework is the only one that can posit normatively why things like settler colonialism is bad and be able to convince people in the first place. Their theory just posits it with impact justified framework, which can never mobilize a movement, which serves an inherent dissent to the entirety of the alternative. That was conceded. Second, they conceded the egoism argument of binding metric of ethics ensures people can't opt out and commit infinite violence, which means that absent the framework that's a binding metric that holds people to ethics, people could just opt out and commit infinite settler violence and commit genocide because they're not held by anything. They also conceded the last implication, which is the game over issue. It takes out the links because questioning my framework uses it, which proves its inescapability. So the entirety of the links are non-unique, which means that also takes out their sort of like non-contradiction analysis on Norton-Smith because it proves that my framework is literally inescapable. You can't sort of question it and still use it at the same time. Extend the offense. It was conceded. The open words, no data evidence, the right to migration is guaranteed by the principle of autonomy. So immigration restrictions, difference on freedom. The critique, the line by line proper. The top level. I'll just line by line each of the links. One is that use that as sort of a framing issue, and like sort of that use that as a sort of an epistemic frame on how you can evaluate the entirety of the framing page. Use it as think of this as a method to be, and in this method, they use it as like sort of a side constraint. The fact that they have no normative power or sort of no motivational power theory means that they can never sort of actualize the alternative in the real world because the fact that they just can't convince people that it's a good idea. Whereas we are the only ones that's able to do this. Extend our responses to the Norton-Smith evidence. They just conceded it. The argument was specifically that we're not forcing Kant onto natives, but rather we're forcing the state to act a certain way, which means it doesn't link because people are still able to have their own ideologies independently, which means that people can still believe in their own, like natives can still believe in their own philosophy. We're just a question of what the state should do in regard to people in the first place. That was the response to Norton-Smith, which takes it out in the first place. Second is that this doesn't take out my framework. These are just because people are like, people can generate like wrong conclusions in the first place and believe that things like not P or P is true. We don't like necessarily exclude that in the first place, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily right in the first place. Anything else means that just triggers permissibility because it proves that we can never make an ethical condemnation because we arrive at not P and P at the same time. That's literally just like definitely just proves that their framework fails. If anything, the Burkhardt evidence, they've conceded all of our analysis. That's why we care about things like experience. Experience definitely matters. The synthetic a priori stuff, things like Pythagorean theorem. I may only know like 2 + 2 = 4. That the sum of the right triangle adds sum of a triangle adds up to 180. But by using these a priori principles and using my experience in the world, I formulate new principles. That's synthetic a priori. That's Pythagorean theorem. We also said that we have to make our maxims universally applicable to everyone. So we have to consider various subject positions. I have to consider an indigenous person's subject position when I want to make a maxim because we want them to be universally applied to everybody in the first place. It definitely matters. The links or disads, well, we've indicted both of the links, which means that none of this stuff matters. I'm also going to extend top level. I'm also going to extend the Kleingeld evidence. It was just straight up dropped. They didn't answer it in the 2NR. It uniquely proves that the Kantianism and sort of rational reflection is the only way to normatively prove that people can actually change their minds and have some sort of mobilization. Kant was a super bad racist, but then he was able to change his mind through the rational reflection, which means that uniquely is the only thing that's able to it should serve like a science train. It's the only one that's able to have normative force and be able to motivate a movement, which means that anything else is an inherent dissent. They've also conceded that the all set is a mindset shift, which means it can't solve for the material balance.
Do they put it like down or?
Oh, yeah, gotta do the fancy.
Yeah.
Any reason for that? Oh, so they put it up.
Yeah.